The hour is late. And the sands of Dunhuang shimmer like silver under the soft glow of the moon. The stars above, ancient and patient, blink slowly, as if they, too, are listening for the first step of the caravan that will soon make its way into the great unknown. The city of Dunhuang lies at the very edge of the desert. It has always been a place of arrivals and departures, a quiet threshold between worlds. In the hush of midnight, the lanterns along the city walls flicker gently, casting long, trembling shadows on the time-worn bricks. Tonight, the gates of the western road are open just enough to let a line of travelers pass. Camels, their heads swaying in rhythm, breathe softly in the stillness. Their padded feet press quietly into the cool sand. A caravan leader, his cloak lined with desert dust, walks with calm purpose, each step measured, deliberate. On his shoulder hangs a small brass bell. It chimes with a note so soft, it could be mistaken for wind. You walk among them now. You are not in a hurry. There is no need to speak. The journey ahead will be slow and soothing. Each grain of sand beneath your feet, each faint sound in the distance, will carry you deeper into stillness. The scent of sandalwood drifts from a nearby pack, mingling with the faint aroma of dried dates and warm leather. Overhead, the moon is a pale guardian. It lights the first stretch of the Silk Road like a path drawn from milk and stars. The sky feels endless, its constellations unmoving, as though painted by a hand far older than time. As the gates of Dunhuang fall behind you, the wind begins its song. It is not a loud wind, nor a harsh one. It hums in long, whispering waves, brushing gently over the dunes. It carries with it the voices of the past, the ancient traders, the storytellers, the monks and pilgrims who once walked this very path under the same starlit sky. You hear nothing clearly, only murmurs, the kind that slip into your thoughts like a dream just before sleep. Soft. Weightless. Not asking anything of you. Only inviting you to listen. The sand glows faintly underfoot. In places, it has gathered in smooth waves, like an ocean frozen in golden silk. Each step makes the faintest hush, like parchment touched by fingertips. And when you pause, you can feel the vastness around you, a silence that stretches farther than any map, deeper than any thought. The others in the caravan say little. Some hum quietly to themselves. Others simply walk, heads bowed, eyes lifted occasionally toward the heavens, as if the stars are telling them secrets. You walk beside an old man whose beard is white as snow and whose breath smells faintly of tea and thyme. He carries a small wooden box, wrapped in embroidered cloth. He clutches it gently, almost reverently, as if the contents are fragile, not in weight, but in memory. At one point, he turns to you and smiles, not a wide smile, but one that suggests you've been expected. As if this walk, this exact midnight moment on the edge of the desert, was always meant to include you. He does not speak. But the smile says enough. Far ahead, the dunes rise and fall like sleeping giants. They are quiet, but not empty. There is a presence in the sand. A slow and ancient rhythm. As if the desert itself is breathing, in and out. Waiting patiently for your footsteps to become part of its endless lullaby. The stars above shift almost imperceptibly. One seems to fall, trailing a thin, glowing thread behind it. And for a moment, everything feels still. You take a deep breath. The air is cool and dry, yet soft against your skin. It carries a feeling you can't quite name. Like the gentle comfort of a forgotten memory, or the hush of silk brushing across a pillow just before you drift off. The sound of the camel bells becomes a rhythm. Not loud. Not insistent. Just enough to guide your thoughts gently away from the noise of the waking world. One step. Then another. The dunes stretch into the distance. And with each quiet step you take, the city behind you fades, its walls swallowed by the shifting sands, its noise replaced by the quiet hush of journeying under the moon. You are not lost. You are not alone. You are part of a story older than kingdoms. older than maps. You are walking the Silk Road at midnight. And the road is ready to share its secrets. One whisper at a time. The night deepens. The stars shift, just slightly, like thoughts rearranging themselves in a sleeping mind. The air is still cool, still dry, and still perfectly quiet, save for the faint rustle of cloth and the slow, steady padding of camels as they continue their path across the open desert. The road has become softer now. Not in the way it looks, but in the way it feels. The edges of the world blur under moonlight. There are no sharp lines. Only curves and shadows, slowly flowing together like ink in warm water. It is in this dreamy hush that a new figure joins the caravan. You notice him only after the next stop, when the group has gathered beneath a solitary acacia tree, the only living thing in sight for miles. He arrives without sound. As if the desert itself had shaped him from shadow and sent him forward. He wears a dark robe, long and flowing, with threads of gold barely visible when the light strikes just right. His face is aged. Not in a frail way, but like a weathered scroll, lines etched by time, by wind, by wisdom. His eyes are clear. Still. As if they've seen many deserts, many suns, many secrets. He carries a bundle under one arm, wrapped in silk the color of storm clouds. The others in the caravan step aside as he approaches. Not out of fear. Out of quiet respect. Someone whispers, "The keeper has returned." And no one says more than that. You watch as he kneels slowly beside the fire, which has been lit with care. Its flames are low and slow, casting long, golden shadows across the sand. The keeper unwraps the bundle. Inside are scrolls, old ones. Their edges frayed, their parchment faded, their words written in curling ink that has barely survived the centuries. But survive, they have. He spreads them out gently on a cloth of woven wool and sand-colored linen. And even though no one asks, he begins to read. His voice is soft. Not loud enough to pierce the stillness, only enough to become part of it. The story he tells is one from long ago, perhaps even from this very desert. It speaks of a time when the sands were not so silent, when the caravan stretched farther than the eye could see, and the nights were alive with music and firelight and whispered promises of silk, spice, and stories from the edges of the world. As he reads, you close your eyes, not to sleep, but to listen more deeply. You can almost feel the past begin to stir. The rustling of silk, the clinking of coins, the soft breathing of tired travelers. The wind rising, lifting veils and curtains and secrets. The scent of ink and rose oil drifting through a trader's tent. And always, always, the feeling that something important is just beyond your grasp. A word, perhaps. A message meant just for you, written long ago and hidden in one of the scrolls the keeper now holds in his weathered hands. He pauses now and then, not to catch his breath, but to let the silence speak. It does, in its own way. Like the hush between heartbeats. Like the brief stillness before sleep pulls you gently under. When he finishes the story, he does not explain its meaning. He simply gathers the scrolls again, wrapping them carefully, precisely, as though folding up time itself. He rises. And though no one saw him arrive, everyone watches him go. You watch, too. He disappears beyond a dune, his silhouette swallowed by shadow and moonlight, until all that remains is a trail of footprints slowly being erased by the sighing wind. For a long moment, no one speaks. Then, quietly, the caravan leader gives a nod. And the group begins to move again. You walk now with a new sense of stillness. A stillness that isn't empty, but full. Full of echoes. Of parchment and prophecy. Of stories that have waited a long time to be heard. The sand is softer beneath your feet now. The night is deeper. And somewhere in the dunes ahead, more secrets wait to find you. The desert has grown quieter still. Even the wind seems to rest now, curling itself around the dunes in gentle waves. High above, the crescent moon hangs like a silver boat sailing through a sea of stars. Its shape feels delicate, almost translucent, as if it, too, is part of a dream. The caravan slows, and then stops. Not because of weariness, no, this pause is something else. It is tradition. A ritual. A quiet honoring of the night. In the center of a shallow valley of sand, surrounded on all sides by smooth, moonlit ridges, the travelers begin to make camp. But not as they would during the day. At night, along this part of the Silk Road, a special rhythm unfolds, soft and slow, like a lullaby played on wind chimes. You step gently across the cool sand, joining the others. No one speaks louder than a whisper. Every movement is careful, graceful, as if the night might shatter if disturbed. A small circle of oil lamps is placed around the resting place. One by one, they are lit with steady hands. Each wick flares briefly, then settles into a warm, flickering glow. The flames dance, not wildly, but in smooth, measured pulses. They reflect on metal pots, glass jars, and the tired eyes of fellow travelers. These are lanterns of midnight, ancient and familiar. Their flames have guided countless souls through the sleeping desert. Not just with light, but with presence. With peace. As you watch the glow gather around you, your breath slows. The warmth of the lamps touches your skin, though the night remains cool. It's a gentle contradiction, like warmth in winter, or a memory returning when least expected. The old woman who tends the tea unpacks her small, worn satchel. Inside, a shallow clay teapot, tiny cups carved with clouds and waves, and a tin of loose leaves wrapped in paper the color of dried lavender. She moves with such quiet care. Every motion is deliberate, like choreography passed down through generations. She does not hurry. She never has. You sit on a folded wool blanket beside the lantern light. Someone hands you a small cup. The tea is warm, its fragrance a blend of sage, fig, and something deeper. Perhaps dates, perhaps memory. As you sip, your body begins to feel heavier, but in a comforting way. Not tired. Held. As if the desert itself has laid down beside you and wrapped its arms around your shoulders. Around the circle, others sip in silence. There are no stories now. Only the soft crackle of the lamp wicks and the occasional sigh of a contented traveler. A camel snorts gently nearby. Its bell jingles once, like a sleepy yawn turned to sound. The woman who made the tea hums a melody, just a few notes, drifting softly through the night. It isn't a song you recognize. But it feels familiar. As though you've heard it before in a half-forgotten dream, or perhaps in childhood, when someone once hummed you to sleep. Above, the crescent moon has shifted just a little. The stars around it sparkle with quiet joy, as if pleased with the hush below. And then something catches your eye. A single lantern, placed farther from the circle, begins to sway. Not from the wind, which remains still. But from something unseen. The flame inside bends, leans, and then flutters upright again. Almost like a bow. Almost like a greeting. You feel no fear. Only curiosity. Only wonder. You walk toward it, slowly, carefully. The sand beneath your feet feels cooler now, silky against your soles. As you approach the lantern, the shadows shift just enough to reveal a small object beside it. A worn coin, ancient and smooth, lying atop a folded piece of parchment. You don't touch it. You only kneel and read. The parchment bears a simple line. Let every step be a soft promise. Let every flame carry a memory. You sit with those words for a while. Not to understand them, but to feel them. To let them settle around you like the warm steam rising from your cup. When you finally rise, the lantern glows just a bit brighter, as if in approval. You return to the circle. Some travelers are already resting, heads tucked beneath wool shawls, faces turned toward the sky. Others sit, eyes half closed, caught somewhere between now and dream. You lie down, too. Your blanket is soft, the sand beneath it pliant and gentle. The night curls itself around you like a lullaby. Above, the crescent moon watches on. And the lanterns flicker softly, like stars fallen to earth. The fire fades. But the glow remains in your mind. And as your eyes begin to close, you remember the words. Let every step be a soft promise. And you take that promise with you into the next stretch of the journey, where dreams and desert walk hand in hand. The stars are still overhead, though perhaps they have shifted ever so slightly since you last looked. The crescent moon rests lower now, near the edge of the sky, as if preparing to dip behind the distant dunes. The night has passed its midpoint, but the silence still holds. Still comforts. The caravan stirs gently. No words are spoken, only movements in the quiet language of the desert. Blankets are folded with soft hands. Cups are rinsed with sand and wiped dry. Camels rise one by one, slowly, like tall ships emerging from deep slumber. And so, the journey continues. You walk once more across the desert floor. But something feels different now. You notice the texture of the sand under your feet, how it changes from smooth to rippled, then back again. Each step feels like turning a page in a book with no title. The desert, vast and unspoken, has begun to whisper again. Not with wind, but with memory. You see it in the way the dunes curve. Each one like a frozen wave, carrying echoes of a time long past. You see it in the faint lines carved by forgotten wheels, almost vanished but not quite. You see it in the sun-bleached fragment of wood resting near a rock, perhaps once part of a cart, perhaps part of something sacred. The sands remember. They always have. They remember the weight of 1,000 caravans. The press of hooves, wheels, sandals. The footsteps of traders, pilgrims, thieves, and poets. They remember voices. Laughing, bargaining, singing. They remember the hush of secrets shared under moonlight and the cry of names whispered into the wind, never to return. You pause at the top of a gentle rise. From here, the desert stretches endlessly in all directions. But somehow, it doesn't feel empty. It feels full. Full of presence. Full of memory. At your feet, the wind reveals a small object buried in the sand. You crouch down and gently lift it from the earth. A smooth piece of pottery, no bigger than your palm, painted with the faded swirl of a lotus flower. Its edges are worn, its surface dulled by time. But still, it holds something. A story. A silence. You tuck it gently into the pouch at your side. Not to keep it, but to carry its memory forward, if only for a little while. As you descend the dune, the caravan moves like a river, quiet and steady. The camels bob their heads in rhythm, their bells creating a soft, continuous lullaby. You begin to notice other things buried just beneath the surface, fragments of rope, beads of glass, a single feather caught in a tangle of dried grass. Each one a trace. Each one a whisper. Each one a memory the sand has decided not to forget. You wonder what memories your own footsteps will leave. Will they last? Or will the desert gently erase them, the way it does with everything in time? A voice beside you murmurs, nothing is ever truly gone. It only becomes part of the silence. You turn, and it's the old man from before, the keeper of the desert scrolls. You hadn't seen him rejoin the group, but here he is, walking beside you once more. He says nothing else. He just walks. But you feel his presence like the shadow of a mountain, quiet, steady, grounding. Together, you walk through a narrow pass between tall dunes. The walls rise high on either side, sheltering the path from the sky. The sand here is different, darker, finer, as though it has been waiting for centuries for footsteps just like yours. As you emerge from the pass, the world opens again. And ahead, in the far distance, you see the faint outline of a stone marker. Just a small pillar, half buried in sand. The caravan moves toward it. When you arrive, the leader of the group kneels and brushes away the sand at its base. There are symbols carved into the stone, faded, cracked, but still visible. Here they passed. Their names forgotten. But their dreams remembered. No one speaks. But each person touches the stone in their own quiet way, a hand, a bow, a glance. You do, too. Not because you must. But because it feels right. Because you understand now that this road is not just a passage. It is a memory. A woven path of wishes, journeys, hopes, and silences. And every step you take along it brings you closer. Not to a destination. But to a deeper stillness. A deeper knowing. The sun still waits beyond the horizon. The stars begin to soften. But the sands still remember. And so do you. The desert has grown darker now. The moon, once hanging like a silver cradle in the sky, has begun to sink behind the dunes. Its light fades slowly, like the last page of a story being turned with care. But the stars remain, steady, ancient, and endless. They light the path ahead not with brightness, but with calm. The caravan continues. Its members have grown even quieter, their footsteps slower, as if the desert itself is drawing them into stillness. And it is during this quiet stretch of road that a voice rises softly through the hush. Not loud. Not sudden. Just, present. A warm, steady voice. One that feels like it has spoken through hundreds of nights, always low, always kind. You turn to see the man walking beside you now, one you hadn't noticed before. He wears a robe dyed with patterns of green and sand. And around his neck hangs a single jade stone, shaped like an eye. His eyes, too, are the color of jade. Not sharp, not cold, but clear. Gentle. Curious. I trade in stories, he says simply. His voice carries no urgency, only invitation. I've gathered them from mountains, valleys, rivers, cities. But the best ones, he smiles, come from deserts. Because deserts are the places where words grow quiet enough to be heard. He walks beside you, hands behind his back, eyes ahead. And slowly, without asking, he begins to share a story. It is not a story of kings or battles. It is a story of a single bowl. Once, he begins, in a small oasis village, there lived a potter who could hear the dreams of clay before he shaped it. Each morning, before the sun had risen, he would sit in silence, place his hands on a lump of earth, and listen. He pauses, letting the stars overhead fill the silence. One day, the clay whispered of a bowl meant for someone who had never seen their homeland. A traveler, wandering not just through deserts, but through memories. The potter shaped that bowl with such care. Thin at the edges, wide at the base, steady in the center. When he finished, he placed it in the sun to harden, and he said nothing. The trader looks toward you now. That bowl, he continues, was never sold. It was passed, hand to hand, from one wanderer to another. And each who drank from it found a memory they thought they had lost. He falls silent again, allowing the sound of the wind and the rhythmic bells of the camels to fill the space. You glance at the pouch by your side, remembering the piece of pottery you found in the sand. And you wonder, could it have been from that bowl? The trader seems to know your thought, but he says nothing. Instead, he smiles again, so softly it's barely a smile at all, and walks a little ahead, his robe trailing like a shadow behind him. The path winds gently now. And the dunes shift color as the faintest glow of pre-dawn brushes the horizon. You walk with the rhythm of the story still in your mind. The idea that something as small as a bowl, as forgotten as a fragment of clay, could carry the memory of someone's longing, someone's love, someone's home. The trader speaks again, not a new story, just a thought. Jade, he says, touching the stone around his neck, is not valued because it's rare, but because it remembers every hand that held it. You look at him, and his eyes, clear as glass, soft as moss, meet yours just once before returning to the road ahead. You think of the people who have walked this path. Of the secrets carried in silk, in spices, in songs. You think of stories hidden in pockets, sewn into hems, whispered into campfires. And you realize, this road is made of more than sand and stone. It is made of memory. And tonight, you are part of it. The jade-eyed trader hums quietly now. A low, melodic tune, ancient and without words. It carries through the still air like a lullaby, gentle and drifting. The sky begins to lighten, just a shade. But for now, the night still holds. The stars still shine. And somewhere within the hush of the desert, the stories continue to unfold. Slowly. Softly. One whisper at a time. The sky, though beginning to change, still holds the final notes of night. A deep navy hue lingers just above the dunes, while the stars slowly dim like lanterns being gently extinguished one by one. You walk in rhythm now, not because you must, but because the rhythm has found you. It has woven itself around your footsteps, your breath, and your thoughts. It is the rhythm of the caravan. Of soft hooves pressing into sand. Of wind brushing over wool. Of bells. Yes, the bells. You begin to notice them more now. Each camel wears a small bell tied gently around its neck with braided cord. They do not ring all at once, nor do they clash. They speak in intervals, like quiet conversations between friends who understand the importance of silence. Tink, tink. A soft chime, followed by a long pause. Then another. And another. The sounds rise and fall like waves on a sleeping shore. Not meant to alert, or call, or warn. Only to comfort. The caravan leader once said that each bell carries a story. Some are old, passed down through generations. Others are new, gifts from children before a long journey. Each bell has its own note, its own voice. Some high and light, like laughter. Others deep and slow, like the hush of distant thunder. As you walk, the bells begin to guide your thoughts inward. You remember moments from earlier in your life, not sharp or detailed, but soft, like fabric warmed by the sun. The smell of a childhood blanket. The quiet of a room just after a rainstorm. The distant sound of your name spoken by someone long gone. Tink, another bell rings. And this one feels like a memory, too. A guide beside you, a younger traveler with kind eyes, tells you that in the old days, camel bells were tuned to match the tone of loved ones' voices. That way, when the bells rang across the dunes, it was as if the voices of family traveled with the caravan, offering protection and presence. You pause for a moment, listening more closely. And now, it's as if the desert is speaking to you in bell tones, telling you that you are not alone, and have never truly been. One bell, slightly ahead, chimes 3 times. Another answers, far to the left. Not an echo. A reply. You watch the camels, how they walk, how they sway. They seem to understand the desert better than any human. They do not fear the vastness, nor question the distance. They move with patience, purpose, and peace. Each movement of their long necks causes the bells to chime, and you begin to imagine the desert as a great cathedral, and the caravan as a procession. But instead of hymns, they offer quiet. Instead of prayers, they offer presence. You close your eyes for just a moment as you walk. And the bells become your lullaby. A soundtrack for a sleep that hasn't arrived yet, but is close. Very close. The younger traveler beside you says quietly, in some parts of the desert, they say that if you fall asleep to the sound of camel bells, your dreams will follow the path of the stars. You smile. Because somehow, that sounds exactly right. You open your eyes again, and the first light of dawn has begun to color the rim of the farthest dune. A soft rose-gold hue, like silk touched by candlelight. But still, the bells continue. Still, the desert listens. And you. You are right where you belong. Moving slowly. Listening deeply. Held by the hush of sand, the music of bells, and the presence of stories that linger in every breath of the night. The first blush of dawn rises slowly behind the eastern dunes. A warm gold glimmers along the edge of the horizon, but night has not yet departed. Here, in the borderland between darkness and light, something ancient begins to stir. The caravan veers gently southward now, following an unseen path that only seasoned travelers seem to know. You don't ask where you are headed. You simply follow. Each step guided by trust, by quiet curiosity, and by the rhythm that has held you since the journey began. Then, through the folds of the desert, faint lights begin to appear. Not stars. Not lanterns from the caravan. But something else. A shimmer of color. A flicker of movement. A glow, soft and playful, like a mirage shaped by music and dreams. And then you see it. Nestled between two great dunes, hidden like a secret only revealed under moonlight, is the night market of Khotan. It is no ordinary market. It does not open by sunrise, nor does it live in maps. It appears when the desert is most silent, just before morning breaks, when the world is still dreaming. The tents are made of embroidered silk that sways in the faintest breeze. Lanterns hang from every post, glowing with hues of amber, plum, and sapphire. Their lights dance along the sand, turning it into a carpet of stars. As you step into the market, your breath slows. Not because you are tired, but because the moment invites reverence. This place feels sacred, not in a religious sense, but in the way a quiet memory is sacred. In the way the smell of cinnamon or old paper brings you back to something lost and loved. You walk past a booth with dried fruit piled in pyramids, figs, apricots, and dates stuffed with honeyed almonds. Beside it, a merchant arranges bolts of silk so thin they seem to float. Their patterns shimmer, some like clouds, some like rivers, some like stories told without words. A musician plays something soft on a bowed instrument. The sound rises gently into the air like incense. It does not demand attention, it simply surrounds you. Each step you take reveals something new. Glass bottles filled with moonlit oils. Painted fans that unfold like delicate wings. Old coins that sing softly when they touch. And the voices, oh, the voices. Not loud, not hurried. Only murmurs, low laughter, gentle greetings. A language of kindness spoken in many tongues, yet understood by all. You pass a table lined with journals, their pages made from rice paper, their covers stitched by hand. One lies open, blank and waiting, and though no one is watching, you find yourself tracing your fingers over its page, feeling a story you haven't written yet waiting inside. Near the center of the market stands a tent larger than the rest. Its entrance is shaped like an archway of vines, though no such plants grow in this part of the desert. Inside, a woman dressed in shades of twilight pours tea from a silver pot. She doesn't speak. Instead, she gestures to a small cushion and a steaming cup already prepared for you. You sit. The tea smells of jasmine, smoke, and something older, perhaps saffron or memory. As you drink, the market sounds soften. The breeze grows cooler. Your heartbeat slows until it matches the pulse of the world around you. The woman smiles. And for just a moment, it feels as if time folds in on itself. As if you have been here before. As if you never left. You realize this market isn't built of tents and wares alone. It is made of longing. Of rest. Of wonder. A place where people come not to buy, but to remember. To feel. To listen. When your cup is empty, you rise slowly. You nod in thanks. The woman does not speak. She only closes her eyes, as if to say, yes. you've understood. And just as gently as it arrived, the night market of Khotan begins to fade. Not vanish. Not disappear. Only soften. The colors dim. The lanterns close like petals at dawn. And the silk tents dissolve into the morning mist. You walk once more with the caravan. Behind you, the market leaves no trace. But something inside you has changed. Lightened. Awakened. You do not carry bags, or coins, or cloth. You carry presence. You carry quiet joy. And the desert welcomes you back into its silence. The night has begun its slow farewell. The stars, though still visible, have softened to a pale shimmer, like ink fading from an old page. A thin band of light stretches across the eastern sky, and with it, the first whispers of dawn stir the air. But the desert is not in a hurry. Nor are you. The caravan moves gently, as though the night's memory clings to each traveler. The bells chime faintly. The camels sway like boats on a still sea. And above, the last constellations glimmer like a map only the desert can read. Beside you walks an elder wrapped in layers of indigo and slate-gray cloth. On her back, she carries no goods, no wares. Only a scroll, sealed in leather and bound with twine, marked with symbols that seem to hum when touched by morning light. She does not speak at first. Only walks, barefoot, her steps silent in the sand. But after some time, she unrolls the scroll with care and spreads it across a flat stone at the side of the path. It is not a map in the way you expect. No roads, no borders, no names. Instead, stars. Dozens of them. Marked with fine ink, connected by dotted lines, swirling like a galaxy made of thought. This, she says softly, is the map of wind and stars. Her voice is like linen drawn across stone, weathered, but kind. She kneels beside the scroll and traces her finger from one cluster of stars to another. We follow this, she says. Not to find the way, but to remember it. The desert shifts, yes, but the sky stays. She points to a star in the center. Altair. The one that tells us when to rest. Then another. Fomalhaut. The one that listens when the desert sings. You look closer. Now the lines begin to make sense. They form patterns, not of geography, but of rhythm. Of flow. Of seasons. And then, of stories. Tiny symbols appear between the stars, a teacup, a camel's eye, a palm leaf, a single flame. This is not a chart of places. It is a memory of moments. A journey recorded not in miles, but in meaning. She gently rolls the scroll again and places it back into its leather case. Then, she lifts her face toward the sky. You follow her gaze, the wind has picked up slightly, just enough to move your robe, just enough to speak. It rushes past your ear with the sound of a forgotten word. You don't catch it. But somehow, you understand. The wind, like the stars, knows things. It moves across the desert not to rush, but to remind. Of when to pause. Of when to listen. Of when to continue. The elder begins walking again, her feet barely sinking into the sand. And as she does, the wind seems to follow. Not loud, only present. You walk in silence beside her, feeling the stars above you, the sand below, and the wind all around. There is a moment when you close your eyes, not from tiredness, but from trust. And you feel the direction of the caravan not in your mind, but in your body, that eye and the angle of the breeze. In the warmth on your face. In the faint sound of a distant bell ringing in tune with the horizon. You are no longer walking on a path. You are part of the map. A moving point among the stars. Guided by the wind. Cradled by time. A hawk circles above, its wings catching the first golden rays of morning. And as it glides silently across the sky, the elder whispers. When we walk by stars, we never walk alone. Her words echo within you. They settle somewhere deep, like a stone dropped into a still pool. You feel that now. You are not alone. Not on this path. Not in this moment. Not in this silence. And as the map of the stars begins to fade into daylight, the wind carries you forward, softly, surely, toward whatever quiet waits ahead. As the morning sun rises behind distant dunes, its golden light filters softly across the caravan. The heat is still a whisper. The sand still cool from the night's hush. Shadows stretch long and graceful, like ribbons of memory unfurling with each step forward. Today's journey begins not with fanfare, but with the gentle swaying of camel steps, the rustle of silk against travel-worn robes, and the silent knowing among the travelers that this stretch of desert holds something delicate. You pass through a narrow corridor of rock, its walls weathered and carved by centuries of wind. There are names etched into the stone, faint, faded scripts in many languages, not as graffiti, but as offerings, as proof that someone once passed here and remembered. The path opens once more into wide space, a basin cupped gently by surrounding hills, as if the desert itself has paused to breathe. In the center of this hollow stands something unexpected. A single silk tree. Its branches are not tall or lush, but from every branch dangle threads of vibrant color. Scarlets, indigos, saffrons, moon whites. Hundreds of them, each tied with care. You step closer. Each thread moves with the breeze, fluttering softly like whispers in a language older than speech. Beside the tree sits an old man weaving. His loom is simple, 2 wooden beams and a string for tension. But the cloth he makes is anything but plain. As you watch, he lifts a scarlet thread from the tree, examines it, then gently works it into the fabric growing beneath his fingers. You approach, curious. He does not speak, only gestures to the tree, invites you to touch it. The silk is impossibly fine, cool to the fingers, yet it seems to hum with warmth. Each thread has its own shade, its own memory. You ask, what are they? The old man smiles, his eyes full of sleep and sun. They are memories, he finally says, left behind by travelers. Some joyful, some sorrowful, some just moments. He lifts another strand, this one blue as twilight. And you notice that each thread has something faintly visible on it, symbols, initials, tiny sewn shapes. One carries the outline of a crescent moon. Another, the spiral of a seashell. Another, just the trace of a single tear embroidered in silver. He points to the growing fabric at his loom. This is the memory cloth, he explains. Not for selling. Not for display. It stays with the desert. A record of those who passed through. Those who chose to leave a little piece of their journey behind. You feel the weight of your own memories now. Of quiet nights. Forgotten dreams. Faces you remember not with your mind, but with your breath. The old man offers you a thread. It is the color of early morning fog, soft and pale with just a glint of pearl. You take it. Hold it between your fingers. The wind wraps it around your wrist for a moment, then releases it. And when you're ready, you tie it gently to a branch. No ceremony. No words. Just a simple knot. A promise. A letting go. The old man nods. You don't need to tell him what memory you left. The tree already knows. The wind carries the thread's motion upward, as if lifting it into the sky. And for a breathless second, you wonder if every thread on that tree is also a prayer that never needed to be spoken aloud. You bow your head, not out of formality, but out of gratitude. The caravan is already preparing to move. You return to your place. Lighter now. Not because you've lost something, but because you've shared it. The memory, once yours alone, now rests with the desert, woven forever into its silent fabric. And as the journey continues, you look back one last time. The tree sways. The threads dance. And you carry on, wrapped in silken echoes of all that has come before. The heat of the day has begun to gather, but it does not press heavily. Instead, it hums quietly above the sand, causing the distant landscape to shimmer like a dream suspended in the air. The caravan slows as it approaches the edge of something curious. A wide, flat plain where light and earth blur into one another. At first, it appears as water. Then, as glass. Then, as shifting illusion. You realize you've reached the edge of a mirage. But this is no ordinary one. This mirage does not vanish when you blink. It lingers, as if waiting to be understood. The caravan leader, a man wrapped in golden linens, raises his hand and signals for a rest. He speaks little, but every gesture he makes seems to carry centuries of wisdom. He walks forward alone, into the heat light that ripples just ahead. You sit beneath a makeshift awning, watching as his shape bends and softens against the horizon. Then something remarkable happens. From the shimmering edge of the mirage, a shape emerges. Slowly, carefully. It looks like another traveler. Then a second. Then a third. Figures walk toward your caravan. Their outlines gentle and glowing, as if they have stepped not from distance, but from memory. The leader meets them with quiet stillness. There are no words. Only a nod. A hand pressed to a heart. And then, he turns and gestures for your caravan to continue. As the figures pass you, you notice something uncanny. Their faces, though unfamiliar, feel known. Not in detail, but in presence. One smiles at you softly, and in her gaze, you see the reflection of someone you once missed. Or perhaps still do. They walk beside your caravan, but their footsteps leave no mark. You realize now that this edge of the mirage is not a place, but a crossing. A place where what was, and what might have been, share space with what still is. A place where echoes walk gently beside the living. You ride on, and the heat shimmers around you like a curtain. The sand glows with faint hues. Amber, rose, bronze. And the air feels like silk drawn slowly through your fingers. One of the caravan boys, young, quiet, curious, leans toward you and whispers. They say this is where dreams wander when we forget them. Not gone, just waiting. Mirages that remember. You nod slowly. It makes sense here. Everything does. As the sun tilts higher, the figures begin to fade. Not suddenly. Not sadly. But like mist pulled back by the warmth of day. You watch until they are no longer visible, yet still somehow with you. A wind picks up again, this time dry and light. And the leader lifts his staff, guiding the caravan forward. You follow. The rhythm of the camels returning. The soft jingling of bells like lullabies spun in daylight, the mirage slowly slips behind you. Its shimmer no longer visible, but its feeling still tucked gently inside your chest. What was it, exactly? Memory? Imagination? A place the waking world isn't meant to hold for long. You aren't sure. But you don't need to be. The desert keeps its secrets not to withhold them, but to invite you to dream again. And so you do. Even with eyes open. Even while walking. You dream of the faces you saw. You dream of places just out of reach. You dream of silence made of light. And as the day stretches forward, you remain quiet. wrapped not in words, but in wonder. Evening descends like a hush, soft and certain. The air cools just enough to carry a sigh from the stones, as if the desert itself is exhaling the heat of the day. Your caravan slows once more, but not because of fatigue. There is a change in the rhythm, a quiet reverence among the travelers, the kind that only comes when approaching something long forgotten, but never lost. The path winds through a series of shallow ravines, where sandstone cliffs rise like ancient scrolls. Their surfaces are lined with strange indentations. Not writing, not symbols. Just the gentle grooves left by time. And perhaps the touch of 1,000 passing hands. At the heart of this maze lies the entrance. A low, arched passage hidden beneath a shelf of stone. You would miss it entirely, were it not for a single lantern glowing faintly within. One by one, the travelers descend. No words are spoken, only footfalls and breath. You duck beneath the arch, and find yourself in a passage cool as midnight. The walls here are smooth, polished by centuries of wind and moisture. Yes, moisture. You feel it before you see it. A thin, almost imperceptible dampness in the air. The scent of something ancient and pure. Water. At the end of the passage, the cavern opens. And there it is. A pool, still and dark as obsidian, set in a hollowed stone basin beneath the earth. The ceiling above is domed and cracked, and through one perfect opening, moonlight pours in. It lands directly upon the surface of the water, turning it silver, making it glow like a sleeping star. This is the cistern of moon water. You step closer, and the silence wraps around you like a shawl. Not heavy, just whole. A traveler kneels at the edge, cupping their hands. They dip into the pool and lift the water to their face. Not to drink, but to bless. The moonlight dances across their skin, leaving behind a trail of shimmering light. It fades quickly, but for a moment, it is there. You follow their lead. Kneel. Reach. The water is impossibly cold. Not the kind that startles, but the kind that calms everything it touches. You lift it to your forehead, and suddenly, it feels like you remember every good thing you've ever forgotten. The laughter of a friend long gone. The scent of rain on stone. A voice from childhood calling your name with love. The pool is still, but within it are echoes. Not of sound, but of feeling. The leader of the caravan steps forward, removing a tiny vial from a pouch at his waist. He dips it into the pool, then seals it again without speaking. A few travelers do the same. You understand now. The moon water is not taken for thirst. It is taken for remembrance that you're told, by someone, perhaps only in your mind, that the pool only glows when the moon is precisely right. That it only appears to those not seeking it. And that it remembers each visitor, carrying their reflections like stars on a silent night. When the last traveler steps away, you linger a moment longer. Evening descends like a hush, soft and certain. The air cools just enough to carry a sigh from the stones, as if the desert itself is exhaling the heat of the day. Your caravan slows once more, but not because of fatigue. There is a change in the rhythm, a quiet reverence among the travelers, the kind that only comes when approaching something long forgotten, but never lost. The path winds through a series of shallow ravines, where sandstone cliffs rise like ancient scrolls. Their surfaces are lined with strange indentations. Not writing, not symbols. Just the gentle grooves left by time. And perhaps the touch of 1,000 passing hands. At the heart of this maze lies the entrance. A low, arched passage hidden beneath a shelf of stone. You would miss it entirely, were it not for a single lantern glowing faintly within. One by one, the travelers descend. No words are spoken. Only footfalls and breath. You duck beneath the arch, and find yourself in a passage cool as midnight. The walls here are smooth, polished by centuries of wind and moisture. Yes, moisture. You feel it before you see it. A thin, almost imperceptible dampness in the air. The scent of something ancient and pure. Water. At the end of the passage, the cavern opens. And there it is. A pool, still and dark as obsidian, set in a hollowed stone basin beneath the earth. The ceiling above is domed and cracked, and through one perfect opening, moonlight pours in. It lands directly upon the surface of the water, turning it silver, making it glow like a sleeping star. This is the cistern of moon water. You step closer, and the silence wraps around you like a shawl. Not heavy, just whole. A traveler kneels at the edge, cupping their hands. They dip into the pool and lift the water to their face. Not to drink, but to bless. The moonlight dances across their skin, leaving behind a trail of shimmering light. It fades quickly, but for a moment, it is there. You follow their lead. Kneel. Reach. The water is impossibly cold. Not the kind that startles, but the kind that calms everything it touches. You lift it to your forehead, and suddenly, it feels like you remember every good thing you've ever forgotten. The laughter of a friend long gone. The scent of rain on stone. A voice from childhood calling your name with love. The pool is still, but within it are echoes. Not of sound, but of feeling. The leader of the caravan steps forward, removing a tiny vial from a pouch at his waist. He dips it into the pool, then seals it again without speaking. A few travelers do the same. You understand now. The moon water is not taken for thirst. It is taken for remembrance that you're told, by someone, perhaps only in your mind, that the pool only glows when the moon is precisely right. That it only appears to those not seeking it. And that it remembers each visitor, carrying their reflections like stars on a silent night. When the last traveler steps away, you linger a moment longer. The wind carries a cooler breath tonight, dustless and scented faintly with cedarwood and spice. You ride in silence beneath a sky that now feels endless, freckled with stars, so bright they seem to sing without sound. Ahead in the distance, low walls emerge. Stone walls, thick and ancient, set squarely upon the desert plain. A rectangle of safety carved into wilderness. This is the caravanserai. A resting place. A sanctuary. A cradle in the desert night. For those who carry stories as precious as silk. Your caravan approaches slowly. The great wooden doors creak open. Not from age, but from dignity. You pass beneath a grand archway, and enter the quiet inner courtyard. The caravanserai is lit by 100 gentle flames. Lamps swinging from iron brackets. Tiny lanterns tucked along the colonnades. Small fires crackling in clay bowls. It is not loud here, but it is not silent either. You hear the murmur of languages. Some you recognize, some you do not. There are travelers from distant cities, resting camels draped in embroidered blankets, and traders sipping warm drinks with spices that tingle the nose. Your group dismounts. The staff here greet you with soft bows, offering bowls of sweet, chilled fruit, and cups of tea that smell of cardamom and rose petals. A young attendant leads you to your resting space. A quiet room off the courtyard, with a floor covered in thick woven carpets, pillows embroidered in soft crimson thread, and a small window open to the night air. You sit, letting the weight fall away from your shoulders. There is no rush to sleep, only permission. The walls hum faintly with the echo of travelers before you. You feel their presence, not as ghosts, but as memories that never needed to leave. Outside, you hear music. Not bold, not performed. Just a soft string instrument, maybe a rubab or oud, played by someone beneath the stars. For no one in particular. Or perhaps, for everyone. You return to the courtyard, drawn toward the melody. There are others sitting quietly. Some are drinking. Some are weaving. Some are simply looking at the sky. You join them. A woman beside you is humming an old lullaby, in a language made of vowels and velvet. She doesn't notice you listening. She isn't singing to be heard. She's just remembering aloud. The player finishes the song with a quiet chord, and the courtyard slips into stillness again. A candle flickers. A shadow passes gently over stone. Someone offers you a thin blanket, and points upward to the roof. You climb a narrow staircase and emerge onto a flat rooftop covered in woven mats. Several travelers are already there, lying down. Watching the stars in contemplative silence, you lie back. The sky your ceiling. The night your companion. The stars are clearer here, as if this place was built beneath a window in the heavens. There is no fear. No need. No future or past. Just the breath in your chest. The steady rhythm of distant footsteps fading. And the sky that keeps opening wider. With every passing moment, you think about the caravan. You'll rejoin in the morning. The path still ahead. The cities whispered in travelers' tales. But here, tonight, there is only this resting place. This pause in the journey. This cradle of quiet wonder. Where the road stops just long enough for your soul to catch up. You close your eyes, wrapped in warmth, drifting somewhere between dream and memory. The caravanserai watches over you, as it has for centuries. A keeper of stories, a giver of peace. And long after you've fallen into soft sleep, the stars remain, watching too. Morning comes slowly in the caravanserai, not with the blare of sun or call of urgency, but with the hush of footsteps, the scent of fresh bread, and the soft rustling of cloth being folded, packed, prepared. You rise, not quite awake, not quite dreaming, just resting within that golden space, where time does not yet ask anything of you. The others in the caravan are preparing too. But before departure, your guide gently beckons you aside, leading you down a narrow hallway you hadn't noticed before. The hallway opens into a modest chamber, cool and dim, lit by one high window shaped like a teardrop. Inside are shelves, rows and rows of them, lined not with books or scrolls, but with tightly wrapped bundles of silk. Letters. Every bundle a message. Every knot a name. Every color a code. This is the letter room. A quiet repository of voices from across the world. A man in a dark robe sits near the far wall, slowly untying one such bundle. He reads the letter silently, then tucks it gently back, never disturbing the soft folds of time that cling to it. The guide turns to you and explains in a whisper. Travelers leave messages here, for those they may never meet again. Lovers lost, siblings scattered, dreams once shared under the same stars. You are invited to do the same. A low writing table sits near the center of the room. There are sheets of linen paper, a slender brush, a small bottle of deep blue ink. You sit. Your hand trembles at first. But the silence in the room is not pressing. It waits patiently. You begin to write. Perhaps to someone you loved. Perhaps to someone you lost. Perhaps to the self you left behind long ago. When the journey began, you write not with urgency, but with care. The words are not perfect, but they are true. When you are done, you place the letter upon a square of silk, soft rose, like the first light before dawn, and wrap it gently, tying it with a thin golden thread. The keeper of the room rises. He accepts your bundle with a silent bow, and places it carefully on a new shelf. It will stay here, among thousands of other unspoken words, held in this safe corner of the world, where even the forgotten are remembered. Outside the room, the caravan prepares to leave. The camels are saddled. The wheels of the carts creak softly as they shift. You walk quietly through the archway, pausing once to glance back. High above the gate, carved into the stone, are words in a language older than your own, they say. May your words travel farther than your feet. You smile. The road stretches onward, not impatiently, but with calm assurance that you will follow when you're ready. As you step forward, you carry no map.no plan, only the memory of ink on silk, of truth written in a room where no one hurried, and the knowledge that somewhere, someone may one day unwrap your words and understand. The desert breathes. The wheels begin to turn again. The road feels lighter today, as though the world has exhaled, and every step your camel takes is cushioned in the hush that follows memory. Hours drift by in golden silence. The sun dips. The sky ripens. And soon you find yourself once again wrapped in that deep indigo hour, when day turns to something softer. Your guide raises a hand. The caravan slows. And there, hidden behind a curtain of slender cypress trees, lies something unexpected. A garden. Not wild, not ornamental, but ancient, as if it had always been waiting. The caravan halts, and you dismount, feet sinking into soil still warm from the afternoon. This place, this garden, has no walls, no gates, just paths of smooth river stone that curve gently through rows of strange and beautiful plants. You walk slowly, eyes adjusting to moonlight. Here grows saffron, its red threads like tiny flames against the green. There, rows of cardamom, their pods shyly hiding under pale leaves. You pass by cinnamon trees, delicate white flowers nestled in their branches, and fields of fennel, their stems whispering to each other in the breeze. No one speaks in the garden. Even the wind is reverent. You kneel near a patch of glowing white flowers. Angelica, perhaps. And for a moment, you remember your grandmother's kitchen. The way she used to grind herbs in a bowl, while humming songs with no words. Somewhere farther down the path, a man is collecting something into small cloth pouches. His fingers move carefully, his expression one of deep respect. He nods to you as you pass, and presses a bundle into your palm. Inside, a few crushed rose petals, dried ginger root, and something dark and sharp, maybe clove or galangal. A blend for dreams, he whispers. You smile, and the pouch disappears into your robes, as though it has always belonged there. The garden turns again, and you follow a trail that leads beneath a woven canopy of vines. Hanging from them are bundles of herbs, tied upside down, drying in the night air. Some you recognize. Most you do not. The scent is incredible. Not strong, but layered. Notes of smoke, sweetness, pepper, and rain. You breathe deeply. The air tastes like story. Far ahead, a single bench rests beneath an ancient pomegranate tree. Its bark is gray with age, but its branches burst with fruit like small lanterns. You sit. Above, the stars emerge again, just as they always do. But tonight, they seem slower. As if they too are pausing in this secret place. A soft chime rings in the distance. And you know it is time to leave. You rise. But not quickly. Not regretfully. You carry with you the scent of the garden. The memory of forgotten flavors. And the whisper of something eternal. As you rejoin the caravan, you notice others holding bundles like yours. Each different. Each gathered with intention. The camels stir. The road calls. And just before you leave, you turn once more to the garden. And see no one. The moon is high now. It floats above the caravan like a quiet guardian, casting long, soft shadows on the dunes that ripple gently like waves frozen in time. The night deepens. The wheels of the carts no longer creak. The camels walk with a rhythm that feels ancient. And every footstep lands with a hush, as if the very earth is listening. And then, you hear it. At first, it is only a suggestion. A murmur in the wind. Like the sigh of old stone. But soon it becomes something more. Music. Not loud. Not played. But felt. It drifts from somewhere unseen. Low, winding tones like a wooden flute. Punctuated by the soft, rounded heartbeat of a hand drum far off in the night. You turn to your guide. They smile. There is a place, they say, where the sand sings back. You follow them off the main path. The others in the caravan content to rest beside a fire. The two of you walk in silence. Until you reach the edge of a crescent-shaped dune. Tall and golden gray under moonlight. Your guide kneels and touches the sand. Then they stand. And begin to walk down its slope slowly. Carefully. You follow. And as your feet move over the slope, you hear it again. A deep, humming tone. Like the sound of a cello beneath your steps. The dune is singing. The guide explains in a whisper. This place is called the Singing Sands. It is made of ancient grains, very dry, very smooth. And when they slide against each other, they make music. You walk again. And the sound deepens. You feel it in your chest. Like a distant thunder that doesn't frighten. You close your eyes. Breathe in. And move. Each step becomes a note. Each shift of your weight sends vibrations. Through centuries of sleeping sand. And in that moment, you are not walking across the desert. You are playing it. The wind joins in. Moving softly across the ridges. Whistling between grains with delicate grace. Together, you and the earth and the sky compose a lullaby. One that no one else will ever hear the same way again. When you return to the caravan, the fire is low, and someone is humming quietly. A tune not unlike the one the sand gave you. You settle beside your blanket, eyes wide under the stars, and the music echoes inside you still. The night has changed you. Not with revelation, not with noise, but with resonance. The soft, deep certainty that everything in the world, even sand, has a voice. And sometimes, if you move gently enough, it will sing just for you. The stars begin to shift again. somewhere deep within the folds of the night. A breeze carries the faint scent of cardamom and aged parchment. The kind of scent that doesn't just stir your senses. It stirs memory. Even memories that aren't your own. The caravan slows as the guide raises a hand. Before you, the desert parts. To reveal a soft golden glow pulsing like a heartbeat. From behind a veil of low-hanging mist. It is not a fire. It is not the moon. It is something older. Something hidden. You follow the guide through a narrow pass flanked by two worn sandstone pillars. Half buried by time. Their carvings nearly erased. And then, you step through. The mist clears. And a hush falls over everything. Before you lies a bazaar. But not like any you've ever known. No merchants call. No coins clatter. No voices rise. Everything here is silence and light. Dozens, no, hundreds, of lanterns float above the market stalls. Suspended by invisible threads. Each one glows with a soft amber flame. And each one seems to flicker to its own quiet rhythm. As though breathing. You walk slowly between the stalls. Your footsteps padded by woven rugs. Faded by time and wind. The stalls themselves are humble, low tables, carved chests. Bundles of cloth and spice, scrolls and stones. But the items they display seem unusual. Out of time. A stack of folded letters tied in silk ribbon. Their ink faint but legible. A mirror carved from dark obsidian. Its surface still and unreadable. A pair of sandals worn smooth. As if they had once crossed mountains of snow. And beside each object. A small note written in delicate hand. Left behind by a dreamer. Carried once by a lonely heart. Found beneath the fourth moon. You don't touch anything. No one does. There are others in the bazaar. But they speak only in glances. Soft eyes meeting yours in quiet recognition. As if you are all part of something. Too old for words. In one corner. A woman sits on a cushion. Weaving lanterns from reeds and silver thread. Each lantern she finishes floats upward. Joining the silent constellation above. You watch her for a long time. The rhythm of her hands is meditative. Loop, twist, bind. Breathe. You continue walking. Drawn to a stall with no wares at all. Just a single bowl of water. Still and clear. You lean in. And in its surface. You see not your reflection. But memories. Not scenes you recognize. Yet somehow, they feel familiar. A child waiting at dusk. A hand releasing a dove. Footprints across frost. They shimmer, then vanish. And the water stills. The stall keeper bows slightly. No words exchanged. None needed. You move on. The path bending, winding. Until you find yourself beneath the largest lantern of them all. It floats low, just above your head. Glowing with a warmth that feels like home. You stand beneath it. And close your eyes. In that moment. The world narrows to a heartbeat. Yours. The lanterns. The nights. They beat as one. The desert has a rhythm. One you begin to understand without needing to name it. It is not hurried. It is not still. It breathes. And you, slowly, begin to breathe with it. As the caravan crests a ridge of dark, cool stone. You see an outcrop tucked beneath a cluster of weathered rocks. Half cave, half shelter. Your guide pauses. Their voice is low, reverent. Tonight, we rest where the wind once whispered secrets to a scribe. You dismount carefully. Feet meeting the earth with soft familiarity. Lanterns are lit. Tea is prepared. And one by one, your fellow travelers settle into the comforting hush of night. But something in you pulls toward the rocks. A quiet invitation to go closer. The wind picks up slightly, whistling between crevices as if humming a song it once knew by heart. You step into the hollow. Inside, smooth walls of pale sandstone rise around you. Etched into the surfaces, barely visible by lantern light, are tiny lines. Not carvings. Not drawings. Writing. You run your fingers gently along one. The grooves are delicate, not deep. The words seem written in flowing strokes. The language unfamiliar. But the intention unmistakable. Someone lived here once. And wrote. In the corner, beneath a small stone shelf. You find it. A weathered book bound in cracked leather. Its pages stained with the colors of time. You open it slowly. The handwriting dances. Slanted lines, looping letters. Punctuated by sketches of sand dunes. Ink maps with no borders. And phrases written again and again. As if testing how they felt on the page. You read aloud softly. The wind is the most faithful traveler. It brings me stories the stars forget to carry. Some truths are so gentle, they must be written at night. You pause. A hush surrounds you. The wind shifts again, curling around your shoulders. Like a shawl woven from memory. You sit down where the scribe must have sat. Cross-legged. Book in lap. World narrow to the shape of a page. You continue turning through the journal. Each entry is more personal than the last. One tells of a dream about a caravan of musicians who played only at midnight. Another speaks of a single grain of sand found in the pocket of a robe that had not been worn in years. A reminder that the past is always traveling with us. One page is filled with nothing but names. Some are crossed out. Others are underlined. All are written with care. You wonder. Were they friends? Lovers? People met once in passing. Whose impact stayed longer than expected? A note at the edge reads. The desert remembers every footstep. But the wind. The wind remembers every word whispered in solitude. You close the book gently. Not because it's finished. But because you feel it has said all it needs to say tonight. Before you leave, you tuck a small pebble between the pages. Not to mark your place, but to offer your presence. A small gift to the scribe, in return for their stories. Outside, the fire crackles softly. The silence of night is not always empty. Sometimes, it waits, holding its breath, listening for wonder. Tonight is one of those nights. You are stirred from your sleep by a sound so soft it might only exist in dreams. The shifting of hooves. The rustle of fabric. The hush of sand being brushed aside by footsteps older than yours. You sit up beneath your blanket. Above you, the sky has changed. The stars are brighter. Closer. As if they've drawn near to hear the desert's quiet. And then, one falls. A streak of silver across the dark. Quick, quiet, perfect. And another. And another. The sky is full of falling stars, trailing their fire like threads spun from the breath of gods. The guide appears beside you, silently offering a warm cloak. You rise, drawn toward the ridge at the edge of the camp. Beyond it lies a scene, as breathtaking as anything you've yet witnessed. A caravan, but not one of this world. Dozens of travelers drift across the desert, each clothed in garments that shimmer like water. Their camels leave no prints, their wheels no ruts. They glide, weightless as moonlight. Lanterns hang from their wagons, but instead of flame, Each holds a single star, glowing gently, whispering stories with every flicker. The wind does not stir. Even the dunes seem to bow in reverence. You feel it in your chest. This is not a dream. Nor is it entirely real. It is a moment between sleep and wake. Between sky and sand. Between what we see and what we carry within. The starlit caravan passes slowly. You notice things you can barely describe. A man playing a flute that makes no sound, but moves the air like a memory. A child holding a bowl of dust, and blowing it gently to guide the stars. A woman with closed eyes, her lips moving as though reciting names. You've long since forgotten, but never truly lost. One traveler catches your gaze. A girl no older than 15, riding a white camel with eyes like firelight. She smiles, and for a moment, you recognize her. Not from this journey. From another. A book once read. A lullaby once heard. A whisper that never had a name until now. As the caravan passes, each falling star seems to follow their path, trailing behind them like loyal companions. You want to call out, to follow, to ask who they are. But something holds you still. A knowing. They are not meant to be followed, only witnessed, remembered. The last wagon disappears behind a distant dune. The final star blinks out as it crosses the horizon. Silence settles once more. And yet, something has changed. Inside you. A warmth. A stillness. A memory planted like a seed. You return to your blanket. Lie down. Above you, the stars remain. Fewer, yes, but steady. The kind that stay. The kind that guide. As your eyes close again, you realize the desert doesn't just reveal secrets. It trusts you with them. And you, now, are part of its story. There is a special kind of silence that only arrives in the final hours of the night. When the world seems to breathe slower, and even time curls up to rest. You wake gently, not startled, but summoned, as if the stars themselves have softly tapped your shoulder. A thin line of light glows on the horizon. Not dawn yet, but something older. The color of pale pearl and cooled ash. Your guide, already awake, motions quietly. You follow them past sleeping camels, the embers of last night's fire, and a small hill of windswept stone. There, nestled in the rock's shadow, is a tent unlike any you've seen. It leans slightly, patched together with silks of varying colors, stitched with threads of gold and midnight blue. A lantern burns just outside the flap, its flame low but steady. The guide speaks softly. Tonight, you meet the mapmaker. But not the kind that draws lines. The kind that listens to the land. You step inside. The scent of ink, parchment, and desert herbs fills the air. Scrolls lie scattered like fallen leaves, each one marked with symbols and curves. Not of borders or names, but of wind patterns, starlight paths, and forgotten melodies. At the center of the tent sits an elderly woman. Her hair is white as dune sand. Her eyes a deep, steady gray. She looks up, and without a word, gestures for you to sit. Laid before her is a wide piece of canvas. Not quite a map. Not quite a painting. It shimmers with soft movement, as though it were breathing. The woman dips a slender brush into a bowl of clear liquid. Not ink. Not water. As she begins to draw, you see it. The path of your caravan. The places you've slept. The rocks you've touched. The stars you followed. She paints your journey not in symbols, but in textures and memories. A swirl for the oasis you dreamed in. A cluster of silver dots for the starlit caravan. A quiet blue streak for the whispering wind that carried your name across the dunes. You watch in silence, breath held. She does not ask questions, only listens. Listens to the way your presence changes the air around you. Listens to the softness in your gaze, the rhythm of your stillness. And she paints. Soon, your section of the canvas glows subtly, as if your soul has been gently placed upon it. Then she turns the canvas. You see the marks of countless other travelers. Some long faded, some freshly drawn. Paths that cross and diverge, that end and begin again. None of them linear. None of them bound by borders or destinations. Only stories. She speaks at last. Her voice a whisper within the hush. This is the map the stars understand. It does not show where you are going, only who you are becoming. She takes a final brushstroke. A small curve of golden thread near your section. A promise, perhaps. A return. You rise slowly, bowing your head in silent gratitude. As you step back into the desert air, you feel something settle in your chest. A quiet peace. Night clings to the desert a little longer, as if reluctant to let go. The stars have begun their slow retreat, one by one slipping behind the veil of morning. But above, the moon still lingers. Full, bright, watchful. You rise before the others, wrapped in the last shadows of midnight. There is a strange stillness in the air, like the final breath before a song ends. The guide waits for you near a cluster of low stones, their surfaces dusted with ash from ancient fires. He says nothing, only points east, to a soft silver curve rising from the horizon. The moon. But not just the moon. It glows brighter than before, casting light not only on the sands, but on something, waiting. There, nestled in the dunes, is a vast ring of standing stones. You've never noticed it, though you've camped here many times. Now, in the hush of final night, it reveals itself. As if sensing you're ready, you walk slowly toward it, your footsteps muffled in the sand. The circle opens as you approach, and you step inside. Each stone bears markings, not words, not maps, stories. Etched lines that swirl and dip, carvings that speak of wind-borne traders, singers who followed stars, lovers lost and found among dunes, and seekers, like you. In the center of the ring lies a single object, a mirror, its surface dark, not reflecting the world around it, but something deeper. You kneel before it. At first, you see nothing, only shadow. Then, slowly, shapes begin to form. Not your face, not your body, but everything that has passed through you. The caravan's laughter, the old woman's tea, the pearl in the merchant's palm, the sound of wind in woven tents. They swirl across the mirror like drifting smoke, settling into a form that is not a picture, but a feeling, a knowing. The moon, now high overhead, glows warmly. Its light touches each stone, each memory, each moment. And then, it bows. Just slightly. But you feel it. The acknowledgement. The reverence. The journey, though still unfinished, has become sacred. You sit in silence. The kind that speaks louder than words. You do not need to move forward tonight. You do not need to seek anything more. You only need to be here. To let the Silk Road breathe with you. To feel how it folds around your story. Welcoming it like wind welcomes flame. When you return to the camp, the fire has burned low. The camels stir gently in their sleep. The sky begins its slow bloom with the colors of morning. You lie down once more, beneath a sky that is no longer unfamiliar. And as your eyes close, the desert sighs softly, cradling you like an old friend. Somewhere far off, a bell chimes once. A farewell. A beginning. Sleep takes you not into dreams, but into remembering. And the Silk Road continues. In silence. Beneath the bowing moon.